Team, today I'm sitting down with Ant and Toby and we talk about the 2026 CrossFit season. That is right. It's been a whole year since we really broke down this pivotal time in the year for all CrossFitters. We talk about the season, what we have coming up, how to best prepare, and we talk about our views on the future of CrossFit. Enjoy. Chaps, welcome to the Process Podcast. Ant, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm doing very well. I'm a little bit tired, actually.
I'm also a little bit tired. I've had a long day, but it's been a good day. It's been a good day.
It has been a long day. Now, Toby, welcome, Toby.
Thank you.
This is your first time on the Process Podcast.
Yes, yeah.
You deserve an introduction, my friend. You can do that yourself. Toby, who are you and what do you do?
I am a CrossFit coach, strength and conditioning coach from the UK. I've been in Bangkok in Thailand for the last 5 years. And yeah, joined the process as an athlete 2 years ago now. I think so. Been in and around the scene in Southeast Asia for a couple of years now. Met you guys and yeah, first time here.
And don't forget,
you missed a
silver
couple
medalist.
of accolades, I think, yeah.
Silver medalist at Bangkok Throwdown 2025.
Yes.
Gold medalist 2023.
Yes.
Anything else?
Semi-final online qualifier athlete.
Yes. Toby, it's great to have you with us.
Quarterfinalist as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
No rugby accolades you want to throw into the mixer? You scored a try in a tennis tournament recently.
I made it into Rugby World magazine for kicking the penalties that beat Exeter Colts for the first time in 10 years.
Oh,
nice.
About
amazing.
20 years ago.
Well done. Congratulations. I'm sure you still have that magazine somewhere at home.
Oh yeah. Mum's got it in a little scrapbook.
Awesome. Well, Toby, it's great to have you with us. You're in Hong Kong, so we thought, got to use this opportunity to get you on the podcast. Reason being, boys, we're talking about the CrossFit season. I think around when this podcast comes out, we've got about 60 days. 60 days into the CrossFit Open kicks off. So we're kind of like moving into like the business end of the season. We always know that December time typically is like the last bit of relaxation, so to speak, from a training perspective. And January window typically means like we got to start getting our head in the game when it comes to preparing ourselves for the season. So that's what today's all about. So my first question is, and I'll throw this to you, Ant, first. Season overview and first reactions. Not that long ago, I think it was probably about just over a month ago or so, they released the whole schedule for the CrossFit season. So we've released dates now for the Open, quarterfinals, semifinals, CrossFit Games.
Yeah.
Just curious to hear first reactions.
I think they're positive reactions. I think as a whole, I don't think there was many positive reactions last year when they had removed quarterfinals and then moved a lot of it to online, for example, the team semifinals. They've opened up a few more routes this year. So, for example, team have the opportunity to go down the online route, but also in-person route, as do individuals, as do age group as well. But they've also brought back the quarterfinals. And I think losing the quarterfinals last year, I think CrossFit shot themselves in the foot a little bit, lost out on a lot of revenue that they could have potentially made, but also people just a bit disgruntled that their season kind of ended at the Open mark. So allowing the people, is it top 25%
Top
again?
25.
Yep. So top 25% again, the chance to still further compete, which they tried to bring in with the Community Cup last year, but that just felt like a flop. I never saw anything about it. So yeah, having the quarterfinals back is a big thumbs up from me. A bit worried about how it's going to be run in the affiliates, but I'm sure we'll speak about that later. We always have a tough time with it. But looking forward to having the quarterfinals back in the mix for sure.
So it sounds like overall pretty positive from you.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Toby, thoughts?
Yeah, I think the same in the sense of last year. I know quite a few people who were like pushing to get into that top 25%, do quarterfinals. There were people who wanted to go and be part of a team at semifinals with that chance to go to the games, and then it all kind of just got taken away, flipped on its head a little bit. And I'll put my hand up and said, we were one of those teams we were looking at as a really good year. And we're like, cool, this is a good chance to go and push that and see what we can do out here in Asia. And then it was like, nope, that's not a ticket anymore. Not that we're ever guaranteed a ticket, but it kind of just diffused a lot of the enthusiasm for the Open into the quarterfinals, into semifinals for us. So I think it's good to have that opportunity for people, irrelevant if they're pushing at the top or if they're pushing 25%. They've got a route to carry on their season a bit. So I'm all for it.
Yeah, I think something that I like this year is just the foresight. Like we actually got the dates way earlier, I feel, this year. I think last year, one of the one of like the thing that left, I think, is a bit of a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths. Like you said, a lot of people who had, targeted potential qualification in the CrossFit Games. Teams are formed in many cases like 9 months before the competition, and people, you have these conversations as a team where it's like, guys, are we going to commit to this thing and make have a real crack at this year? And I think when the dates just come out so late and there's changes, big changes, I think it just ruffled a few feathers. And I think the quarterfinals are one of those as well. I think when they brought the quarterfinals in, it was like this really cool thing for a while where it was top 10%, I believe, at the start. And so it felt really like, it did feel like an accomplishment to someone who wasn't a semi-final athlete like myself, for example, that you could still kind of like achieve this like thing of progressing a little bit further in your season. And then when that got moved to 25%, I think the 10% people kind of felt a bit like, oh, well, this doesn't feel that special anymore. But then the 10 to 25%ers were like, well, this is really cool. And I think, if it's serving a bigger group, then that's, I think, a win. And then suddenly taking that away, I agree, Ant, was probably like not great. I think especially amidst just so many things happening. Like we all know what happened at the games last year, lots of changes at leadership, Glassman and him exiting, and Castro and media coming in and out, just so many things happening. I think that was just like the cherry on the cake for just, upsetting a few people in the community.
Yeah, agreed.
I don't know if you saw as well. I know there was some confusion as well of like the national champions, because there were some people who didn't do the Community Cup but got further into the season, but then didn't get the national champion award, which is a bit interesting. And people who did do the Community Cup and finished highest in the Community Cup, they got awarded the national champion, even though there were people who technically actually went further into semi-finals. So it was a bit weird of like, which parts do you need to do to actually earn that title or earn that accolade?
Yeah.
Which I think, again, took quite a lot away, and not even just not knowing which part of the season actually rewarded them. It just took a lot away from people.
Did you lose a champion in Thailand?
No. Well, I didn't.
Oh, no,
but
okay.
yeah.
Clients that
I
did.
know the scenario in Thailand, was that exactly.
What have you guys heard about the Community Cup? I think last year it was like this new thing that was promised to be this really cool thing for communities that they can be a part of. And then, like you said, Ant, it kind of just like died. Like we didn't really hear anything about it. I felt like the CrossFit publications and media online didn't make much noise about it.
Yeah.
We certainly didn't really know any other affiliates who were really investing in it, and I haven't heard anything about it this season.
Yeah, well, we actually wanted to try and run an in-house competition using the Community Cup workouts, and we actually never really saw them come out. It was supposed to be based on your open ranking, so you finish in like the bottom 10% or top 10%, and then everything else in between. It would basically rank you into 5 different buckets, and then, for example, like buckets 9 and 10 would be the top level, and then buckets 1 and 2 would be the bottom level, and then everything in between. We just didn't really see anything really come from it. I know the signups were pretty poor, and there was a bit of hype around it to start, which I was quite excited about, to again give people what they were missing from the quarterfinals, which wasn't there last year. But unfortunately, never really got that hype to steamroll through, and it just kind of fizzled out to nothing.
So I'm actually just looking at the official dates on the CrossFit Games website, and it says Community Cup, but it's the only one that doesn't really have a date. It says to be announced.
Oh, so is that for the 2026 season?
2026 season.
Oh, okay.
So potentially. Okay, so quarterfinals. We've all mentioned quarterfinals. Like, are we a fan? Are we not a fan? What do we think, Toby?
Yeah, I'm a fan.
For someone, can I ask though? For someone, I guess, question to you, what's your goal this year? I know last year you talked about, you got put together a really strong team. You guys put a lot of work in, had, goals of trying to make it to the games through the Asian route. That didn't exist because there wasn't a qualifying berth through the Far East Throwdown. What is your goal this year?
So for me, I made the decision of, okay, we can't go team. So generally speaking, all of us said, well, let's see how far we can go individual. And I was painfully just on the outside of that that bubble to make it in there. So for me, I do have that, I guess, itch that I want to scratch of going and going semi-finals as an individual athlete. And I think I'm in probably a better position than I've ever been with my training and where I am to do that. But I also love team. So I love being in a team. I think actually as an athlete, I'm probably better suited to it with the style of workouts we generally see. And I know now that it's a legitimate route, there's going to be a lot of other people who are interested and excited by that option. So for me, I'm kind of just trying to my season technically ended 2 days ago or 3 days ago. So I'm going to take
with the silver medal.
With a silver medal,
yeah.
Not a gold, but yeah. So I'm gonna probably take a week or so and just see how I feel, whether I want to try and go down that route of individual again, or whether I look at doing a team, or whether it's like you just put all of it out there and see which one comes off. So yeah, I'm in a little bit of limbo at the moment.
And what's your goal?
Currently recovering from an injury, which I feel like I've said for the last 3 years in this podcast. Not a bad one though, so I feel like my recovery is solid. But at the end, I don't know where I'll be at when the Open comes around. This time last year, I was saying if I can snatch 100 kg pain-free, I'll do the Open and go individual, which I ticked the box. Then I ended up doing that thing. Yeah, I definitely feel like I think similar to Toby, I think we both have rugby backgrounds and team sport backgrounds, and being in the individual arena for so long now, I feel like maybe I want to dip my toes back into the team side of things. I'm also a bit older. I definitely have some injuries, and I still love training. I think I train probably just as hard as I did when I was younger, but obviously it's catching up a little bit. So yeah, I guess maybe the same as Toby. I just got to see how the next few weeks and months play out. And when registration comes around, I either register for a team or I go individual, and I'll just decide then.
Very nice. Okay, my question then is, I know that the quarterfinals was a big hit for people like me, right? So for people who don't have aspirations for semi-finals, but they want that something, maybe the achievement, the accolades of being able to qualify top 25% is, a big achievement for a lot of people, and it gives them a target to aim towards. But for you guys who are, targeting beyond the quarterfinals, do you see the quarterfinals as a good addition to a season, or is it a hindrance?
It's a good question. Yeah, I think it's a good addition. I think it keeps a knife sharp. At the same time, though, there are a lot of other competitions around, which if you dip your toes into too many of those, then you end up having a bit of a crazy season. And I think you've probably seen that now with some of the top tier guys who are doing competitions last year, which are high level competitions, which are like a bit more prestigious, your Rogue Invitationals, your Waterpaloozas, and those sorts of competitions. And maybe they get to where they are now, where you got your World Fitness Project finals coming up, and you're just seeing like people falling out and dropping like flies left, right, and center. Maybe it just gets too much, but I think as a CrossFit Games season, I think it's legitimate, and it's a nice addition to the season as well.
Yeah, I think it depends what you have to do, if that makes sense. So it's like, I agree with Ant, and overall, I think it's a good thing. I do really think we always talk about community in CrossFit, and it's like you want those opportunities for everybody at every level. That's the point of CrossFit. Then I think it's a really good thing to have. The question I would ask is, okay, do I have to do the Open to get into certain semi-finals, because certain in-person semi-finals will have their own qualifying? So if I only have to do the Open, but then I have to do an online qualifier for a semi-final in person, if I don't do the quarters, what does that mean? Does that mean I don't have to, or am I expected to? Because that's going to make a difference to the amount of things that I want to do, or how I shape my season, or from with a coach's hat on, like how I shape the season for athletes that I'm working with as well. Like, and finding that balance of, like you say, keeping the knife sharp, but just smashing yourself into the floor, which we know now, looking at what's happening, might not be the best approach for longevity for people.
I mean, if you sign up, Toby, for the individual and the team, I'm looking at those dates on the board over there. You got a busy March to June period. So
yeah, and then if you throw in qualifiers for the semi-finals as well, then it's like
there's a lot. Yeah,
Yeah, I'll retract my statement because I know my body can't handle it.
Can I ask, because what we're saying here is that, especially like this, like February to March time, we've got to be quite selective about what we say yes to and what we say no to. It's especially if we're thinking about preserving ourselves for the rest of the season, right? And I think a lot of people fall into the trap where all these qualifiers are happening around the same time. Then you got the Open and you got quarterfinals. Then you got, potentially online semifinals in person, and people do a lot in a really short amount of time. And when you look, to maybe the 3 to 6 months before that, they go from doing not much to suddenly in a really high amount of volume and intensity, and then suddenly their bodies start breaking down. So, what is your suggestion? Like, if you were to like design this season in a different way, would you design it in a different way? Like, is that even an issue, or is it like, you know what, it's a good thing we have all these things. Athletes just got to be smart about what they say yes to.
Yeah, I think the only thing which can feel frustrating is probably the inconsistencies of qualifiers. And I'm not talking about the CrossFit Games season. When I talk about CrossFit Games season, I mean the ones that the CrossFit Games as a company hosts. So they do the Open, the quarters, the semis, online semis, and then the games. I think it's frustrating that when, let's say, where we currently are in Asia, we're more likely than not to try and do the Far East Throwdown. It's more accessible for us. It's closer to get to, probably cheaper versus going to the US, going to Europe, or maybe going down to Australia. And then when they put on 6 to 7 qualifiers to get into their semifinals versus other places who might just put 2 to 4, there's a big difference when it adds up over the season, especially if you're maybe on the bubble as a bubble athlete, you're then doing redos. If you're an elite, then you probably just get away with just doing it once and maybe moving it like 85%, you'll be okay. But again, you don't really want your result to reflect that. You want your result to be good. So yeah, I think that's kind of like my only thing that I would change is trying to standardize qualifiers a bit more in terms of how many tests there are. That would be the only thing I think from me.
I'm actually just thinking back to last season, and as someone who writes the programming for our semi-final hopefuls and those who are looking to progress through it, I remember last year, just what I always do is basically look at the historical data of semi-final workouts. And then within Asia, we were one of the later weeks last year. So basically, for those who don't know, semi-finals kind of season rolls around, and you know that your semi-final is either going to be at the start of all of it, in which case like you're kicking off the charge, you got nothing to really compare against. You might be in the middle, you might be the end. I think Far East Throwdown here in Asia, which is where most Asian athletes compete in, was towards the end. And I remember basically just looking at all the other workouts and basically trying to pick up on consistencies in the programming so that I could help our athletes prepare the best they could. So there were, and I was actually seeing a lot of consistencies. It was like every event had a sandbag event. Every event had an interval-based workout. Every event had a max lift of some sort. And so we're seeing all these real consistencies. And I think we had the 30 clean and jerks. The heavy grace, for example, popped up in lots of the in-person semi-finals. And then when the Far East Throwdown rolled around, we didn't see any of them.
Yeah.
We saw a set of tests that were very biased towards the barbell and classic CrossFit workouts. And I think what I felt like was, partly I felt like I'd done a disservice to our athletes because I'd programmed based on all of this data that I was so sure, I felt really confident I ticked all the boxes of what might come up. And then suddenly when the workouts came up, I was like, oh, there's a lot of these things that I actually haven't addressed. And I think that was a challenging part as a coach and a programmer, because suddenly there was this kind of curveball. So when we look back a couple of years, we had semi-finals went back to this idea of like individually run semi-finals, but consistent programming, right? It was a year of the sled for you, which got stuck on the floor. And I think we had all those sled issues. So now, if we look back on the last few years from a semi-finals perspective, having standardized programming across all semi-finals, to then last year, the individual semi-final organizers being able to do their own take on programming, what do you prefer? Team, I want to quickly interrupt this episode to give a little shout out to our sponsors, Today Well Spent. This little journal has made such a massive, profound impact on my life since I started using it. When I started using it, I actually didn't know that it was backed by neuroscience, but now it totally makes sense. This has brought a ton of gratitude to my life. It keeps me on track and focused on the things I need to do day to day, and brings a lot of context as to how each day fits within the greater week and the greater month. So if you, like me, really care about trying to be a high performer and want to do everything you can to make that happen, I cannot recommend this journal enough. Use our discount code, The Process, to grab yours today.
So I don't mind it as long as
Don't mind. Sorry,
as in I don't mind if it's individually programmed by the organizers.
Need guidelines.
Yeah, and I feel if you know the events, the competition, like if it's an established competition, I think you can have a bit of an idea of what it's going to be like. I like that for competition because I think when it was all the same and everything like that, and I think they were giving out prizes or awards for like who had the fastest time, but some people were having 6 weeks to prepare for it, seeing 40 people do it each weekend before they did it. And I think that kind of, I like the idea, but I just don't think it actually works. You can't compare them.
Yeah.
But it does get, in theory, a balanced field.
Yeah.
But that said, I like the fact that different competitions have like different twists that they might stick to. If you're going to this event, they might do a bit of a wild Friday first event or something like that. I actually don't mind it. I just think it does take a little bit more of selection of when you're programming for it or where you are, or just knowing that competition a bit more. If you start throwing different competitions in, then it's like, now it starts to get a bit more like convoluted as well as to what am I actually preparing for.
Yeah, I think for me, I agree. I think it's nice to see a blend of different programming across the different semifinals. I understand the old regionals format where everyone was just told to do the same thing, and later months and weeks could have a better shot at breaking the world record, they would always say. But it got a bit boring. So I think having different tests is good, but what I think they need to do is just give some sort of guideline. So a guideline might be, okay, let's say everyone's all going to do 6 tests. One of those tests must be an interval based. One of them must be a strongman based one. One of them must be in excess of 20 minutes plus, which is going to test aerobic fitness. You must have these machines all across, because some semifinals had no machines or lack of machines, and some were very, very machine dominant. Which again, it will then, of course, like against Toby's point, which is it gets the same type of athlete through in each semifinal. This will give a different blend of athletes, which is a good and a bad thing. You can get them then be successful at the games or be a complete flop at the games. So
you just kind of brings more X factors to the game, a bit more unknown at the games when I think the tests are varied.
Yeah,
but that could go either way, right? You can have a whole bunch of semifinals qualifying people who just finished last in every workout.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's been this training think tank have put lots of thoughts out on this. Team from Proven HWPO, I think, have put theirs out as well. Basically, this debate around standardizing tests versus vary. So I think like the Functional Fitness Federation have basically made an attempt to do what you said, Ant, right? We're putting like broad categories for workouts, but they're not so definitive that you still don't really know what you're going to be doing as an athlete. But at least when you look at the whole testing body, you can kind of say, okay, we kind of tested all the most important facets for fitness and it was relatively well-rounded, which I would personally say the Far East Throwdown wasn't last year. I don't think it was a balanced set of tests that really found the most balanced athlete. So then, there's been conversations around, well, like the decathlon in the Olympics, like pick your tests and those tests remain the same all the time, like High Rocks, basically. High Rocks is exactly that, right? It's a test. Toby's got like words on the tip of his tongue. You can see he's frothing over this.
Grid League as well.
Grid League, same test every time. And then I think you can look at the other end of the spectrum, which is don't announce any tests. So it can be totally varied and it gets released on the day. So I guess there's like three debates I want to throw out here. Number one, the idea of just standardizing tests. So you do the same test every year, like High Rocks. Number two, basic or constantly varied, which is basically what we have right now. And again, the number three is the idea of like releasing workouts ahead of time, giving athletes a chance to practice versus holding those tests and springing it on athletes on game day. So I guess it's like a programming question relative to events.
Right.
Toby, go.
I know mine would be hold them.
Hold the
don't tell 'em.
workouts. Don't tell them why.
Yeah. Because like it's meant to be unknown and unknowable, or like preparing for everything and all those kind of things, and then you give people an exact picture of what they're doing, which I do understand as to why to some degree. But I think the best athletes are the people who have to problem solve and understand themselves as well. So if you give someone 6 weeks and they're going to try every single workout 7 times and have a really good opportunity to like break it down into I'm going to do this, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try this, then you do actually lose some of the competitive side of it, in my opinion. Because I think, again, coming from a rugby background, I like the idea of you're going onto the pitch, you're crossing over onto the pitch, and you have to problem solve what's in front of you. And I actually like that side of fitness and competition. That's the workout, 3, 2, 1, go. And I think that's where you see the most physically and mentally gifted athletes rise to the top in that scenario, rather than someone who's incredibly good at breaking something down, which isn't a bad thing. But I think with CrossFit, that's not the point of what we're doing, which brings me on to why my bugbear with High Rocks. It's the same workout. You get to test against anyone in the world, this, that, and the other. Well, you don't. You go to Singapore, it's in an outdoor stadium, and the humidity's through the roof, and you see people running 57s, and then they go to Germany, and the course is actually a little bit shorter, and they're doing it in a nice 16-degree heat indoors, and they're running 54s and 53s. Because then what you get is like, well, all the athletes, if they want to qualify, all those bubble athletes, they're going to go to Germany. So then the local athletes in that one actually are getting this huge field coming in and like just absolutely dominating there. So they're losing the opportunities to go and have success within their local environment. And I think you'd have that in CrossFit as well. So suddenly you'd have people really gaming their season. Someone who might not make it in North America, suddenly you've got 15 of them coming over to Asia. And okay, yes, you're wanting to find the fittest for the CrossFit Games, but you're taking away 15 spots from people who can go and have success and grow CrossFit organically within their country. I know, ironic that I'm not from Asia and I am in Asia, but I'm at least here and living here, and this is where I am. Whereas if you start to take that away, so well,
there's almost 2 debates you're throwing out here, right? Because there's one debate that you're talking about, you know, like who should be competing at these different events, and there's another debate that you're basically sharing, which is like the idea of workouts just being released when you get there, not being able to prepare for it.
Yeah.
So, okay, definitely hear both points. What are the negative impacts of moving, if we were to move all tests to be not released ahead of time, and you get to the venue and they're released, you don't have a chance to practice, what are the potential negative impacts of that?
I mean, injury risk.
Yeah.
If they throw someone out there and like you have athletes who just, they've had to guess it, they've had to train so much, so they haven't had exposure to whatever it is. But I think that comes down to responsibility of the programmer as well, or the programming team. Obviously, you're not gonna. There was the year of the pec tears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When they suddenly threw out a load of volume that was probably.
Yeah.
But I think you could nullify that if you gave minimum requirements.
Yeah.
Right. So like expect at the very least, this is what you might see.
Yeah.
What are the other drawbacks? Like
I think you know, just with the whole unknown and unknowable, I actually very much agree with what Toby is saying. Like the best athletes will be able to showcase their talent and their fitness and their abilities and strategic, you know, nous and know abouts when given something on the spot. But at the same time, this whole idea of CrossFit continuing to harp on the unknown and unknowable, whilst it's cool and whilst it's like a bit novel, it's not at the same time, because half the fucking people out there already know what the workouts are. And then, so half the people are going like, yeah, you know, this last weekend when I was in Macau, for example, and, you know, not throwing any shade at anyone, but half the guys there had already got reverse double unders. So how the hell have these guys got reverse double unders? They've just said this literally 5 minutes ago and like, oh yeah, we knew about it 3 weeks ago. It's like, well, that's ridiculous. Like, how has that got around to you? Oh, the organizer told us. Well, why didn't they tell anyone else? And it's the same when you see, you know, these YouTube videos and posts go on Instagram and be like, oh no, they leaked a score sheet again, so we know exactly what the workout is, but we're going to take it off and we're just going to give it to a couple of camps. Like, then it just becomes stupid, and it just becomes a game of who do you know better and who's your network. It's got nothing to do with the sport, and it's got nothing to do with your ability, because then it's just essentially unfair.
Okay, so because you're both athletes, we're going to put athlete hats on right now. Do we think moving forward, what would you think would be the best thing for the sport when it comes to this topic of like the tests and how they're delivered and how varied they are versus standardized and when they come out? If you could have it like move to like all competitions at this level are now going to be done this way, what would it be?
I wouldn't put it that way though.
Okay, good.
I would allow people to do their own thing, and then you pick and choose which one you want to do.
Okay, so you're saying like allow one competition to not release workouts, and
Yeah,
allow
and if
others to
that's
release them
what they
ahead of time?
want to do, then you'll get people who gravitate towards that. And you got other competitions like a World Fitness Project who go like, these are what because they did it on their pro card and on their intermediate, whatever they call it, card. And it's just like, this is what you need to be able to do. So you need to be able to snatch 125 in this one. You need to be able to snatch 102 in this one, for example. And then it's like, you know where you're going at. And you know, generally, like you were saying, it's got like a guideline of what to expect. Suddenly, you're not going to go into the intermediate category and be like, oh my God, there's 120 kg snatch. They only asked for 102.
Yeah.
So there's a guideline there, and you can pretty much know if you're prepped for that or not. Or if like, okay, I need to do beginner or just not do this at all, then it's not my competition. But again, I think, it's like how long's a piece of string? Everything's going to be different. It's like, are you going to give a guideline on length of workouts, how many workouts, style of workouts, equipment needed? It becomes very difficult to do it. So
Do you think for the growth of this sport though, like having just that amount of variety and no standardization, is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? Does it help them or does it hurt them? Because there aren't really any other sports who do it.
which is why a lot of people like CrossFit though.
This is also true.
Yeah. So I think there are pros and there are cons. I think if you want to turn the sport professional, it's a con. It's not good for it. You know, every sport out there that's, you know, for example, at the Olympics, you know exactly what you're testing. You know exactly how far you're running. You know exactly how far you're throwing, how wide the field is that you have to stay within, and all that sort of stuff. Nothing is left to guesswork, and it's just done over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But people like the novelty of new movements being thrown in. People like the challenge of that. People like having that as like a training stimulus as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess it just draws different people.
But you know, it's like, I think in the wake of High Rocks, okay, so I know I hear your point about High Rocks and it's like standardized, but then it's not really standardized. You can say the same about like marathon races, like all the world records are broken in Berlin as well. But since High Rocks release, who were really like the first fitness race that standardized it, because we've had like Tough Mudders and Spartans, which were kind of the same. It was like a 5K Spartan race, but the track was always different, right? So that was never standardized. So I'd say High Rocks like really have like standardized and created this like term of fitness racing and made it like repeatable. And then look at like in the wake of that, how many people are doing similar things now? Like you got Athex, you Redline, you competed in loads of Italy. I'm seeing these local versions of High Roxes, and they're throwing their own like twist on the workouts. I think you were part of Crucible recently when you guys kind of had the same thing, right? It was like standardized tests with like some different elements in there. And I think the only thing that I can say is that when you look at the participation numbers of these competitions, it's smoking High Rocks. Like it's destroying High Rocks. It's destroying CrossFit. Sorry. You know, the numbers are just far exceeding what CrossFit, you know, as a 15, 20 year, you know, CrossFit Open and, you know, fitness competition has achieved. These guys are surpassing it massively.
I think we kind of do have it in CrossFit. It's just not written down. Like as programmers, from a coach's point of view, before an athlete, we got a pretty good idea of what CrossFit class is going to look like. We know the standards. We know what RX is. We know all of those kinds of things. So,
sorry, Toby, I'm going to just cut you off there. What do you mean? So you're talking about like as CrossFit gyms?
Yeah.
But then even that's so varied.
Yeah, completely. I do completely agree. But if we look at what CrossFit was with, like, we know the fundamental movements that you are going to generally see across a week or a 2-week cycle in CrossFit, pure classic CrossFit. Like you do know what that is. And then going back from an athlete point of view to answer your question, like, so I know how to train for CrossFit, like basic class CrossFit. I think you can get a pretty good thing there. I think Then when
So
it
I think you're
becomes,
basically what you're saying is just GPP.
Yeah.
We're not talking about competitive CrossFit.
Yeah.
We're not talking about the open. We're just talking about like using mixed modal fitness as a means of just being healthier and living longer.
Yeah.
Which is what it was intended to be, right?
under the banner of CrossFit, so you know
Yeah.
you're keeping kipping, you're keeping Olympic weightlifting. Like, so I actually think that is a pretty standardized thing. It's just not written down.
Yeah.
I think then when it goes to competition, going back to your original question, for me as an athlete, what would be like my dream scenario? For me, it would be like 4 days or something like that. They release them.
You got 3 fingers up, by the way.
Thumb. Pinky up.
Yeah.
4 days or something like that before you release them. So you know what they are. So you are paying, but you don't get the scenario of people having.
You got a chance to maybe hit them once, or a 50, or a broken down version of it.
And I think the same in online qualifiers. I hate a 2-week online qualifier window for 4 workouts, because you just have who's got the most time, who's got the most availability, who's got the most recoverability to go and do each one 4 times. I really like the style where they're like, they release them, day later you've got 4 days. Yeah, 4.
Yeah.
Go and do it. So for me, from an athlete point of view, is what my preference would be, is like that short preparation time, so you do know what's coming and you can set the guidelines out before that, like you say, because we know what the base of CrossFit is as a training modality. Then the competition can layer on top, these are our expectations, these are our guidelines for the competition, and then you get a 4-day window. Then you've got to go and do it. Like, for me, I think that's a scenario where you give enough warning, you give enough preparation, but it doesn't become this mathematical gaming system of who's going to do what, when, how many times, to play the system enough to come out on top.
Yeah.
Okay. My next question now is kind of linked. It could potentially be linked to what we're talking about. But why do we think the number of people who are training CrossFit in affiliates or following online programs like the Process Programming relative to the number of people who sign up to the Open, why is there such a big disparity? Why isn't every single person doing CrossFit, training it all year round, signing up to the Open?
Well, I guess just don't want to compete. They don't want to see themselves on the leaderboard, and they just, they find joy in something else, whether that's going to the gym with their mates, whether that's seeing a community, whether that's just seeing themselves get better. But a lot of people don't want to compete. What
are the reasons? Like, we've all been working in gyms for multiple CrossFit Opens, right? Because I'm sure we know we've done this many times, right? Because you're looking at the list of people in your gym who signed up for the Open, and you know exactly who hasn't. When you go and ask those people, hey, Toby, why haven't you signed up for the Open this year? What are the normal reasons that people give?
I mean, in the last 2 years, I've had a lot more people just feel that there's a bad taste in their mouth about CrossFit.
It's like not wanting to give CrossFit money. Yeah, I hear a lot.
Yeah, and I still think people were sort of holding on to that. Like, oh, they keep changing the goalposts. Oh, they keep changing this. Oh, there was all of the stuff that, let's be honest, in the last few years, this has been one thing after another. I think we talked about this in Shanghai a year ago, when we're like, I kind of feel loyal to it because I've been doing it. My best mate opens CrossFit North Devon in 2012. So I kind of feel loyal to it. But over the last 4 years, I'm like,
getting harder and harder.
I'm defending something that it's like, why am I still defending? But I still do believe in the Open, because I still do believe the purpose of the Open is good. But I just think people have lost the love of it, because they've lost the love of that like rawness of CrossFit as a company and a brand. So I think that's changed quite a lot for people, as well as, like you say, Crucible, Redline, High Rocks, local events, not CrossFit. So the barrier to entry is much lower. So why pay to do the online Open when I can go and do Redline, I can go and do High Rocks, whatever it is. There's so many more opportunities for people to go and do it with potentially a lower barrier to entry. And I think if you
lower time commitment.
Yeah, exactly. 1 weekend.
Higher likelihood of success.
90 minutes and you get to go to another country for a weekend. I'm going to fly to Singapore, do a 90-minute event, have my Sunday free, not 3 weeks of...
You know exactly what you're going to do.
Yeah.
You know you can do it.
So like, I completely understand why people do it. I still love the other side of it. I love all of that, and that's why I would do it. But I can completely see why, like, if it's my mum, like my mum did the Open, or a scaled version of the Open, before there was the scaled version of the Open. But now she'd actually rather go and do a charity fun run that's based on a Spartan or something like that. She's like, she doesn't need to sign up to see she's 20,000th I won't say her age on the podcast.
Yeah.
In the world, in the UK. So I just think, yeah, there's so much more, and there's been so much bad press that people are like, oh, just do something else, try something new.
Do you think the leaderboard really has a massive impact on why people do and don't do it?
For some people, yeah.
Yeah.
I think for people who envision themselves to be a quarterfinalist or a semi-finalist, it does. For the other people, I don't think it really does. I think, people in our gym are on a leaderboard almost every single day anyway.
Yeah.
And most gyms, they have that technology these days as well. Or it was still old school and they write your name on a whiteboard and you see it. But again, that's like classic CrossFit.
Yeah.
That's like your old school way of looking at it. And yeah, I agree, like that, probably like that grit and grunge that kind of your old school CrossFitters know, and for most of them would love, has kind of disappeared in a lot of the CrossFit gyms around the world now. And I guess like expectations within the industry have just gone up. So people don't really vibe with that anymore. It's a little bit different. People want the sexier stuff, and Hyrox has brought that in as well. They have their own line of equipment. It all looks very spick and span. The gyms are all decked out very nice, whereas CrossFit still looks like you're walking back into the 1980s. And there's like brickwork on everything. Everything's a bit rusty, but people love that. But at the same time, I think maybe people are outgrowing that a little bit at the same time.
I see there's so many more options as well now.
Yeah.
Like to do a competitive sport that's not running or team sports, which have high levels of skill, and it's not that accessible. Like there's just so much now for everyone, to feel like an athlete.
I mean, so as well, my background was in school strength and conditioning and school sport. And one of the big things we had often conversations with PE was when they get to like sixth form and things like that, what activities are we offering? And actually, when you're looking at what people do outside of their work and their leisure time, like less people are doing five-a-side football and things like that and Sunday league football. And actually what they're doing is they're going to the gym to begin with, and then they find classes, and then they find something like Hyrox, and people are now doing that. So the everyday person has now got that opportunity to compete in such a low barrier of everything that you said, time, effort, money, all of those things. You don't have to go and learn kipping.
Yeah.
You don't have to go and learn Olympic lifting. You don't have to go and do any of it.
Yeah.
And I actually think that's the next stage. Like now Hyrox is getting bigger. People are like, oh, it's a running race.
Yeah.
And that's why I think things like Redline, Crucible, all of those other ones are going to have, I don't think they'll reach the level of necessarily, sorry for my employers at Crucible for the last month, but I don't necessarily think they'll reach the globalization that Hyrox has, because there are so many that are going to be able to offer something fun, something different, something low barrier. But I think that first one of Hyrox has gone, oh my God, we can do this differently.
Yep. And
everyone else is going, oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I'll do a bit of that. So that's going to get busier and busier and busier as well, which I don't think is a bad thing.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to circle around to like the future of CrossFit, and I think linking it back to all these other things that are happening right now, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing for the CrossFit space? But I want to actually bring it back to the Open now. So, let's say by the time this episode comes out, it's about 60 to 70 days till the Open kicks off. If someone wants to make this their best ever CrossFit Open, or it's their first CrossFit Open and they want to get the absolute most out of it, what do you boys think for the Open level? We're talking about not semi-final level athletes, and we're talking about people who are not going to progress beyond the CrossFit Open. So they're basically finishing from 25 to 100 percentile. What are the key ingredients to success for those people? What should they be doing between now and the Open?
And everything, mate. You got no chance. God. Skills. When you talk about skills, I think skills you can learn without necessarily getting stronger.
When you say skills, like what are the most important skills?
Like a double under, for example. That would be a skill which doesn't need any more strength unless you actually can't jump and you can't spin a rope around you. Then you need to do a bit of wrist and ankle work. But otherwise, things like double unders, if you have prerequisite levels of strength and you don't have the ability to execute the skills, like a pull-up, a chest to bar pull-up, a toes to bar, maybe a muscle up. I think those things, handstands against the wall. I wouldn't even put handstand walking in there anymore. I don't think that's something that's going to come up anymore. And I'll probably be made to look like an idiot when this podcast comes out. But those are like what I mean by skills.
Yeah.
And then strength. Like you got to be able to hit strength numbers, and like I think people get very carried away within the open. But I think generally speaking, to do well in the open, you got to be able to move like for males like a 135 bar. You got to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And for ladies, that's a 95-pound bar, so 61.43 kg.
Yeah.
Do we always see those weights? Sometimes we go heavier to like a 185 for men, maybe even a 225 sometimes. And for ladies, that goes up as well towards, can be like a 155-pound barbell.
Well, I mean, what we've seen in the last 2 years, we've seen the removal of an absolute strength test.
Yeah.
That was always it was always a staple. Actually, no, it wasn't always a staple in the CrossFit Open. Like years back, 2000 and kind of like 13 to like 2022-ish. Could be getting this wrong. 2018, actually, I think it was always just like endurance-based tests.
Yeah.
And then they brought out the 0.1. Remember the clean after the dumbbell front squat burpees? I think that was the first iteration of like a max test, and that became a norm for multiple years. So it meant that athletes couldn't just be really aerobically fit and have all the skills anymore. They had to have good levels of top end strength.
They did the clean and jerk after the double under.
That's right.
Clean
Toast to
toast to bar.
Front squat, yeah.
No, it wasn't front squat. It was a shoulder to overhead, maybe. Clean and jerk.
Oh, the clean, 2016. Oh my god,
Yes.
that's burnt.
I've got a good video of you doing that one.
They then did the thruster, didn't they? 3RM thruster. Was that in the open or was that?
Yeah, that was the open.
That was one arm thruster.
One arm thruster.
so
Yeah, after the
burpee
burpee
pull-ups.
Yeah. No, that 2016 year, that the clean and jerk was like the year that I was like, I'm giving up CrossFit. my hopes for the CrossFit Games are gone. I'm sacking this stupid sport off. Okay, so statistics on the movements that are most likely to come up to like least likely to come up. So basically, these are the movements that if you were to pick movements to definitely prioritize in your training between now and the CrossFit Open, these would be. In fact, I'm gonna let you boys try and guess this. There's 6 movements here. Toby, you go first.
So I think they've changed though. Before we go into that,
This was based on Jan 2025.
I think there's going to be some form of dumbbell, either snatch or clean and jerk.
Okay, you're not answering my question. What are the most, based on statistics, Toby? That's all we can do, right? All we can do is we got to look at statistics and make educated guesses on what might count. And we know that Dave Castro's stupid little hints. Okay, go.
Double under.
Double under, yes. Toby, you're going to trade these off. Fast answers only.
Okay, pull up,
Toes to bar.
Chest to bar is 1. Toes to bar,
Yeah.
yes.
thruster,
Yes.
deadlift.
No.
Oh.
Can't be deadlift. Some form of snatch.
Nope.
What have we said?
Squat clean is one of them.
It's not clean.
And
Okay.
burpees.
Burpee, yeah.
Okay, so those are the movements, guys. If you're going to like hedge your bets to give yourself the best chance, as Ant said, from a technical perspective, a lot of these things are technique-based movements, require strength as well. Okay, then we've got the next most important movements. We've got deadlift, rowing, walking, lunging, front squats, bar muscle-ups, snatch, clean and jerk, and my nemesis, strict handstand push-ups. Okay,
I think you got a few more nemesis.
I do have lots of nemesis. Anything that involves knee
nemesis.
bending now. Now, I think this is basically what they have is like the movements that are least likely to show up based on historical data, which means if you're prepping to make this your best open yet, spend as little time doing these ones, maybe sprinkle them in every now and then. Pistols, rowing for meters, did show up last year, I think it was, the row double under deadlift.
The year before.
Dumbbell hang clean and jerk.
I mean,
Kipping handstand push-ups
last year.
and shoulders to overheads. Okay, least likely to show up. Okay, so and you said technique, and we've now identified the movements that are most important. Toby, a key ingredient to setting yourself up for success in the Open 2026.
I think now it's like localized, like muscular endurance. They look at the first week is going to be low barrier to entry because that's the way fitness is going. They want everybody to be able to get a long way.
They want to see that workout and be like, I can do it.
So it's going to be, I know you said strength in there as well, but I think the at least the first one is always going to be like moderate weight,
lots of reps,
loads of reps, body weight and dumbbell, and just get really, really good at moving efficiently. Like, you want to be able to, like, anyone can, well, not everyone, but most people can make themselves hurt. But like, can you just get really efficient over a 7-8 minute period of time with 2 movements and just understand how to tick through a hard but sustainable pace? So I think people get stuck in I've got to go hard, it's the Open.
Yeah,
Time the
7
mains.
to 15 minutes.
7 to 15. Yeah, I definitely like push it up to like the 15 minute mark. Okay, agree with both you boys. Now let's talk about quarterfinals.
Yeah.
If someone wants to make the top 25%, and let's imagine this is someone who is on the bubble. Like they're always like around 20 to 25%, but they're not a shoo-in. What should they be doing between now and the quarterfinals? And
Oh, so they've qualified for the quarterfinals?
no, sorry, this is to give them the best chance of qualifying the top 25%, i.e. make it to the quarterfinals.
Well, then I would assume that they've already got half decent skills, already got the skills down.
Yeah.
And so I would still say that it doesn't cost much in terms of like preparation. Like to try and get strong, it costs a lot. To try and get aerobically fit, it costs a lot of energy. But to get more efficient at double under, to get more efficient at your kipping work and understand it a little bit better, you can do that. And that's probably the easiest way to do it. On top of that, would also be strategy based in there. So a coach can definitely help you with that. If you're not so good at it, you can learn how to do that. And that costs you zero physical effort, apart from obviously seeing if that strategy works. But then the other, basically the same as what I said before, whatever those barbell weights were in the open, it needs to be a little bit more. So it needs to be the next barbell. Like for men, it will go 95, 135, 185, generally a 225, sometimes a 205 or 215 in the middle.
Yeah.
For ladies, it would be 65, 95, 115, and then like a 135, 155. So you just got to move up at least one barbell.
A little bit stronger.
Yeah.
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 So
Time domain's about the same.
I'd go away from the physical and go further on your strategy.
Yeah.
It's like know your numbers. I think so many people on that edge, they don't know what their rowing pace is of when they're pushing too hard or when they're pushing or not pushing enough, and just get a good idea of like what is their limit of pull-ups, what is their limit of toes to bar, so that when you actually go into a workout that's 7, 9, 12, 15 minutes long, you actually have an idea of how to do it, not go in, get hit in the face, rest 2 days, then try it again. Because
Same
you just
strategy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You just see people flogging themselves. I've just got to be fitter. We haven't got to be fitter. You just got to actually understand yourself.
Be smarter.
Is where you're moving away from like a training modality to a sport. So you have to approach it a little bit more like a sport. I'm not saying you have to break down every single thing. I'm not saying you have to do every kind of video review that you want to do, but you should know what your typical pace, calories per hour, 500 meter split, all those kinds of things are, in my opinion.
We're all coaching athletes, right, in the sport at various levels. What's your one main piece of advice that you give people when you have that client who just has no idea of strategy, has no idea about strategy, no idea about their own capabilities and capacities, personal like awareness is poor? What's your piece of advice that you give those guys to start building more awareness and start getting better at pacing workouts?
God, you can go first, Toby.
Mine would be start slow and then slow it down.
So this is just general advice.
General
Start
advice.
slower.
So in your Metcons, start slow and then slow it down a little bit more. Then look to like get negative splits from there.
You're speaking very complex language.
Okay, sorry.
What are the negatives?
Slow it down again.
Yeah.
Then if it's an
Let's go
AMRAP,
slower than you think.
then you think each round should actually get faster,
Versus what most people do.
which is go
Start
super
too fast and get slower.
fall off a cliff.
Yeah. And why is that bad?
Because they're either not going to get the training stimulus and they're not actually going to understand anything that they want.
Yeah.
If we're actually trying to move through a piece that has a specific stimulus, then we're doing it at intensity that we want to sustain for that period of time. If you go above that intensity and then fall off, then you're just building up fatigue and you're not learning anything. You're just teaching your body to hurt in simple terms.
Yeah.
Whereas I would always rather someone do a Metcon or a workout or a WOD and come out feeling like, oh, I could have pushed a bit more.
Yeah. I think it's much easier for people to know where they could have pushed harder versus knowing where they could have slowed down.
Yeah, definitely.
I agree.
Yeah, I'd go on the same with that. And I think even just going back to your question before is what Toby was saying about the strategy. It's like, I know we have done it, I'm sure you've done it as well, is you can get people through to the next stage of a competition by doing something that they really don't want to do. For example, you got someone who knows how to do 15 unbroken chest to bar pull-ups, but you can get them through by doing doubles and singles, and they can actually be better and be higher up on a leaderboard, which is what matters if you're trying to go to quarterfinals, with a strategy which is like so far against what they want to do, whether it's an ego thing, whether it's like, I just should be better at this, or no, I don't want to do that. You can actually be very, very successful by doing something which is very different to what you would normally do in a gym.
Yeah, I think it's really important to understand like where that cutoff point is in terms of how much better you're going to get in the short amount of time that we have.
Yeah.
So I think in 60 days, you can 100% improve technique. Technique is not damaging on the body. You could almost do it every day if your volumes are appropriate. And that could potentially allow you to add so many more reps to a workout without actually being any fitter, just because you're spending less energy per repetition.
Yeah.
In terms of like adding pounds or kilograms to your top end strength in the next 60 days, I mean, for most people, we're talking maybe a couple percent. Is that going to be bumping you up massive on a leaderboard? No, we should definitely be maintaining it. But thinking that you're going to suddenly add all this weight to your max list is probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
I think aerobic capacity in 60 days for people who have a decent base can improve a lot.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Especially like the pain style workouts, like making sure that your body is ready, and you're somewhat comfortable, operating at heart rates that are very, very high and hanging there, which is a mistake that I always make in the last kind of 4 opens. I just don't do enough of that. So when the open rolls around and I decide I am going to do it today, I just have no idea how close to my ceiling I actually am. And often we'll just undercook it. Toby, or the opposite, you'll just overcook it.
I was going to say that even in the last year, and I've been doing this for a long time, the biggest change I've had with you is like, okay, you can hold on for X, but why?
Yeah.
Do you want to? Is it worth it?
Yeah.
I did it this open because I wasn't going to do it, then I was going to do it, and then I was like, didn't know what I was going to do.
So
and
you flogged yourself.
Then the first week, I did jump in last minute and got a result that I wasn't happy with. And so the natural response is, I've just got to go at it more.
Yeah.
And then I think you beat me. And I was like, nah, not having this. And then I was like, right, what did you do? And then I literally just took your strategy and then beat you. But
you know what?
literally that.
My advice is along the same. So my question to you boys is like, well, what do you do to help athletes become more self-aware? Honestly, I think my advice is like, just start writing down what you did. And I think it's kind of what we have done, as a premium subscriber to the process programming, I have this opportunity with all of our athletes to basically look at what you've done. But when I just see a score, it means nothing.
Yeah.
So we can see a CrossFit Open workout and just see a score on leaderboard, but it's like, I don't know if you could go better until I really know how you actually attack that workout. And obviously then it's piecing together, what your capabilities are as an athlete or as a coach, knowing your athlete, and then looking at the strategy that they executed on. And it's like, was that actually the best strategy for you? And I think when people just go through, build the habit of reflecting on workouts, when you start reflecting on workouts, it generally means that those same people start thinking about workouts ahead of time as well, because you're learning from the past in order to make better decisions for the future. And so what happens when you start reflecting your workouts and simply just writing down what you did and then maybe sharing some thoughts on like, how could I have done this better? Most people actually know the answer to that question when you actually ask them, hey, if you did this again, what would you do better? 99% of people, even beginners, are like, probably went a little bit too fast. Probably should have broken my movement up. And then what that means is that just them going through that process, the next time that workout comes out, they have that, knowledge and experience in the bank that they apply that to the next one and then they reflect. So I think the thing for me is, how many people do you guys know who've done like 10 or more CrossFit Opens? Ant's put his hand up. But who still every year make the same mistakes when it comes to strategizing? Not including you, Ant, because I know you reflect on your workouts a lot, but what we'll see is that most of those people who are repeat offenders on poor strategies, also when you look at the training for the rest of the year or for those 10 years, there's very little reflection that goes into it.
Yeah.
Do you guys agree?
100%.
Yeah. And often the answer is just don't be a pussy or just got to go harder.
That was your answer for about 9 years. Hey,
Worth
how are you going to do
for a
this
couple
again?
of reps. Worth it for a couple of reps. 15 minutes of pain.
My phrase is turned to don't be a dick. I don't do more just because. In my head, I'm like, don't be a dick.
Don't do that because you want to do it.
Yeah, it's actually like, stop.
Let's talk about now athletes who are looking at semifinals.
Yeah.
Right. So we're talking like athletes on your level now. What are the key ingredients for those guys? Obviously, the obvious answer is everything we've said, but heavier.
Yeah.
Probably more move. We've got to throw more movements into the
Yeah.
into the bag, because semi-finals, in-person events have the ability to throw odd object work and things that aren't typically used in the open. But outside of that, like, what's your like outside of the box advice for people who are wanting to compete at that level?
Assuming you're good enough to be at that level, which if you've qualified, generally speaking, you are, unless you've been extremely lucky on the workouts and you just somehow got in. But it's riding the highs and lows and staying, which is essentially just staying in your own lane. And that comes with competing with people side by side of you and understanding your strategy and sticking with the strategy and staying in your own lane. But then also, when you do well, you got to move on to next, and you celebrate it quickly, and you got to move on to next one, because there's going to be another 5 to 7 workouts that are going to be coming your way thick and fast. And those weekends, often the best athletes will perform very, very well on day 3 or day 4, depends how long the tournament or competition is. Often you'll see people light up the first day and then suddenly they just disappeared because they haven't put in the work, or they're not staying in the lane, or they get distracted, or whatever it might be.
Emotional roller coasters draining their energy.
Yeah, I think it's just getting used to that 3 to 4 day long weekend, having to stay really laser focused throughout the whole thing. It's a hard skill. And a lot of people, when they go to their first one, they get to the last day and they're dead. They got nothing to give anymore.
Mentally exhausted, just
mentally as well as physical. Everyone's physically exhausted by that point, but it's like the ones who are winning and the ones who are crushing it are still mentally focused and switched on. I think that would be my best piece of advice.
How do you get people to train that, improve that?
You have to experience it, number one.
You got to put yourself in the arena.
Yeah, but then you can also do it just by speaking about what you spoke about before with training. Everything that you do, reflect on it. And there's a reason why you did something. There's a reason the way that you executed it has made you feel a certain way. And there will be emotions tied to it. If Toby beats me in the gym, or if I beat Toby, we'll both be feeling a certain way in a workout. And just reflecting on that. How did it make you feel? How does it make you feel when you leave the gym? How does it feel when you come in the next day? Those are all very similar feelings. So you can somewhat train that before you go to the weekend. Yeah. It helps when you have a team behind you. If you're just there by yourself and you're just you're rolling hand solo, it's not great. It's much harder to execute those ones. But it's a skill in itself. Again, you got a team, it makes it easier.
I think like along the with the theme of emotional regulation is, I think, kind of the way I think about it, like being really in tune with your own emotions and feelings and having tools to be able to manage them effectively. So, when you're feeling really low, having the tools to bring you back up to baseline, and vice versa, when you're feeling extremely high, which can have the same kind of impact on the nervous system, how to bring yourself back down. I really see a lot of those skills are cultivated outside of the gym. And it's like, you see the most self-aware individuals in life, deeply introspective, high levels of self-awareness, high levels of emotional intelligence, if they have athletic capabilities, tend to make really great athletes.
I think it's super important as well, on that note, have something outside the gym. Because if you want to do well in that environment, in the competition, but everything you do in life is consuming around that one thing, very few select people it can work for. And you get,
or it can work for a short amount of time, I find.
Yeah. Or you I don't know, whether you take the example of like the highest levels, if you take like Ronaldo and things like that, they are just everything and it's all consuming. Johnny Wilkinson was the same, and it's all consuming. I don't think most people can do that. And if you're a semi-finals level athlete, which is still a ridiculous level of fitness compared to the general person or to so many different people, I think you have to have something outside of it because of the nature of CrossFit and training and fatigue it has on our body. Because essentially we're competing in the thing that like all those other sports players just do to keep fit.
Yeah.
It's so impactful on your body and on your system. If you don't have something that you can step away from it from, or step an outlet somewhere, then you're just going to end up chewing yourself up from the inside out. But also on that, and this is something that we've worked on a lot, is the actions that you do take then when you're in the gym need to be what you do on game day. How many people, and you've probably seen this at semi-finals, suddenly doing a new warm-up Or someone goes, oh, actually, can you go and advertise my product while I'm there? And they're taking new supplements or new gels before they go and do an event, or they're doing all of these different things. And then they get like either over aroused, or they're like feeling completely different going into a workout. And they're like, I don't know how to deal with this. I've not done it. So if you don't normally go in the gym and listen to two hours of music while sitting on a salt bike, getting yourself pumped up, don't do that on game day. Same thing, if you're normally, you like to be social, like to be around people. Yeah, do that on competition day. Make sure you've got people around you. Like, the things when you're in it should be the things that you do. And that's how you do it. But then have something outside of it.
Yeah.
How important do you think for the semi-finals level athlete that we're talking about, how important is environment?
For me, huge.
These days it's big. I think back in the day, I mean, anyone could make regionals. I was a proof of that. I hadn't really done CrossFit very long, and suddenly I'm in the last heat at regionals, and I'm the guy getting clapped off the floor because he's dead last. But these days, it is essentially a professional sport. The time that is put into it is like it's a full-time gig, really. Again, depends on regions you're in, and there's going to be levels within a semi-final. But yeah, I think it is important. It fosters the culture, and it fosters the intensity. Of course, you can do it by yourself, and some people have the innate ability to just do it by themselves, like your Matt Frasers, for example. But the 99.9 other percent, I think the environment is very important.
Let's find your environment. Like, as in, like, Matt Fraser's environment is lock yourself in a room and go and do it.
Yeah.
So, like, I reckon the environment for him does, like, if you chucked him in with a big group of training people, it'd be interesting to see what he did.
Yeah.
How well he did do, or would he get distracted? Would he get caught up in other people? For him, it was narrow. Yeah. You put me on my own, I hate it. I hate being in the gym on my own with headphones in. Like, I find it really hard to do.
Everyone else loves it though.
Yeah, I know. When I'm not there, it's brilliant.
I mean, I do think that, like, at that level, in fact, I think environment is so powerful at all levels. You know, I think for people who are, you know, wanting to compete in the open or take part in the open, you know, being a part of an affiliate and training with your friends and having a coach over you, and you've got this like really like energy fueled hour, allows you to just get so much more out of that training session than you might have got by yourself. And I think, you know, at the level of semi-finals, I think where it gets tricky is because there's less athletes who exist at that level, being able to be around others of that level is super important. You know, just little things like just learning off one another, right? You got someone who's great at Olympic lifting, and if you need to work on Olympic lifting, just seeing that person lift every time naturally makes you better. I mean, like, you know, we've gone into golf recently, and it's like, we always laugh that it's like, if the best guy in your foursome is having a shit day, everyone has a shit day, right? Because you're normally leaning on that guy to like lift the level of golf when he's hitting good shots, and when he's having a crap day, you all start playing crap. And it's like, you know, the knock-on effect of being in a high-performing environment is powerful. And I think about it, you know, not from an athlete lens, but being surrounded by great coaches, or having, you know, why I invest so much money in a mentor is that I need someone who is light years ahead of me and where I ultimately want to get to, because that lifts my cadence in life. And I think I just think it's so powerful. Like, if you can get to a place where you are surrounded by others who are chasing the same dreams as you, even if it's just for things like, you know, we run athlete camps, getting somewhere for 2 days and surrounding yourself with other people of the level that you want to be at, you know, that can like provide you the fuel motivation for the next 12 months. Like, that's how powerful I think it is, especially if like your environment back home is by yourself. So that's going to be my addition. Boys, we talked a lot about the future of CrossFit already. And I want to kind of close off this conversation because it was about a year ago and we had a conversation around the future of CrossFit, and just Toby, you've touched on it already. Like, what had happened up until that point of time was kind of like doom and gloom. And I think we sat here and said, well, we're going to have to wait and see what happens in the next year. And it was kind of like a bit of a watch this space. That year has now happened. And I'll start with you. Like, what are your thoughts on the future of CrossFit as a brand?
They've started off well this year by bringing back the quarterfinals. It seems like there's more media around it. It seems like there's a little bit more hype and a little more love from the community as well, which is great. Do I think it's done like a U-turn? I don't think it's done a U-turn just yet. I still don't think it's heading in a direction that we would all love to see it go in. But I think they have a lot of things they need to reverse. You know, I think they got a lot of trust they need to earn back from a very loyal crowd of people who stuck with them. And this is a great starting point, and hopefully it just continues on. You know, we don't need to go back to say what all the not so great things have been. But I still feel loyal to it. I still love what I do in here on a daily basis, which is being able to coach people. I love my own time here, which is being able to train the methodology for the sport of it. But yeah, I think it's a good start, and I'm just looking forward to the future. I think, you know, the imminent sale of CrossFit is no longer imminent sale. It's been dragging on for like 6-8 months now, because I'm pretty sure we spoke about that last time as well. I don't know how much of a knock-on effect that will have. I think that's my feeling as an athlete. My feeling as an affiliate owner in Asia, we don't get anything from CrossFit. So I think I said this last time. Why do we pay $3,000 a year to have the name CrossFit? I don't know. I'm still unsure, really. I think the main reason we do it right now is so we can get age group people through, or people to the games or to semifinals, which is now a requirement. I don't know if it still is this year. But like having a CrossFit level 2s and having affiliation is essential if you want people to go. And we have people who've ticked those boxes. So that's why we're an affiliate. But otherwise, we don't get anything from it.
So you said basically, like, things have to be reversed, like, to earn back the trust of people.
Yeah.
Do you think it's reversible? Do you think we're going to get back to, I don't know if you think about this, but like I think about the highs of like
Regionals
2014 to 2018 and like how just good those years were.
Yeah.
Do you think like we could get back there?
I think we can. I think with things like the World Fitness Project coming in, whilst I know there's been a lot of media around it being an opposition to CrossFit, whether they are, whether they aren't, I think it doesn't matter. I think they're still doing CrossFit, and I think it's supposed to be boosting the sport.
Do you think it is?
I don't think it is right now. I think it's a bit of a flop right now, which is a shame. I wanted it to do well. I wanted it to be the spectacle it promised it could be. The media within the CrossFit circle, do a great job of slamming it and making it look really shit. I've seen a few of them online. They don't look that bad. But again, you know, you see the participation numbers just not there on it. You know, they have the scale, the intermediate, and then the pro. The pro is the only full category. The team ones are all empty. It's borderline embarrassing, which is a shame. Like I said, I think that would just grow the sport of CrossFit. I don't really know why the buy-in is so poor, but we'll know after this year's Open signups what it's looking like, I guess.
Do you see it as like the equivalent of, let's say, a red line versus a high rocks? You know, like if you got the option of the two, which would you? I would always go for the high rocks. Do you think it's a bit like that? It's like you're always going to go for the big shiny object versus like the less shiny one, just because of everything surrounds it?
I guess so. I guess you prioritize what's already established. You know what the ticket is at the end. You know what you're getting.
There's more media. There's more participation.
Yeah, maybe it doesn't feel like you know
OG.
what's at the end of the World Fitness Project. Do you just do it again next year, or do you get better at it?
I feel like the World Fitness Project was just born. I don't know like the motivations behind it, but I feel like it was partly kind of like born out of CrossFit going through a tough time.
Yeah.
Right. Which basically I think really helped them in the early stages of the launch of it, because it was like, well, I don't want to be a part of CrossFit. This is the next closest thing. But I think now maybe that has worn off a little bit, you know, the kind of like animosity that a lot of people felt towards CrossFit in the wake of last year's games. So I don't know.
Yeah, unsure.
I just think we need to sort of accept where we are. Like, CrossFit burst onto the scene, was the next best amazing thing, and this and that and the other, and training and fitness and health has, I would say, not necessarily as a result, but at the same time has exploded. You now have high roxes, you now have all of these things. So CrossFit isn't this magical new thing that's there. That doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't mean it's this. I think we just need to understand that it's like some people play football, some people play rugby, some people play rugby union, some people play rugby league. One's not rubbish and one's not great. People will have incredibly strong opinions about it. But I think there's just going to be a moment now where we've had that bang up and we're going to settle back down, and that's fine. I think we can still grow, and I think there's still so many great things about it, and you can still have so many things that allow you to grow, whether it's in business, whether it's personally, from CrossFit, and that's fine. We just need to understand that there might be 25% of members in our gym that aren't doing it to do the open. They're doing it because they want general physical preparedness to go and do a high rocks, to go and do a red line. And we don't need to compete all the time against high rocks or this, that, or the other. They're not going away. Same way that strength and conditioning and weightlifting hated CrossFit when CrossFit first came out. They're like, oh, it's really bad for you, shouldn't do it. It's just a like bastardization of circuit training. And now actually there's weightlifting seen an increase in participation for people who did CrossFit and then liked it. Same thing, High Rocks is massive, and High Rocks and CrossFit, oh, they hate each other. Essentially, they're just trying to get people to compete in a physical activity that challenges them. The level of it doesn't matter. We can just stop bitching about it and accept that there are multiple different things. I think some things suck. I'm not going to go and do them. But some people think that about CrossFit. So I think it's still on a good trajectory. I think it's just going to be slower. And what is like what I remember, like the glory days in my head of like Bridges and Froning having the rope pull like thing where they had that, I can't remember what year that was, 2013.
13, yeah.
Yeah, like to me in my head, that's the glory days. But there's no reason there'll be just different examples of that for people who are just finding CrossFit now for the first time. I think it's always going to happen. It's just going to be a cycle, and accepting that it's just, we're in that part of the cycle now.
Yeah, I think that when I think about like CrossFit, I think more about what I have fallen in love with regarding CrossFit is the methodology of training. Like, I love the idea of having a training methodology which includes movements that really challenge the human body, right? Because I was at a point where I was just kind of bored of just doing Romanian deadlifts and back squats and bench pressing. And so naturally, like where I was in my fitness journey, I think we're all very similar, having lifted weights for, 15 years already, it was like, well, I could just keep on doing this forever, but it's like, I'm just one of those people that like loves the challenge of physicality. How can I continue to challenge my body? Then it was like, wow, weightlifting, that's really cool. But I didn't want to just become a weightlifter. It was like the rings, that's really cool. Like walking on my hands, there was all these really cool facets of it that I was like, and I know there's people like me who exist in the world who, want to just challenge the body beyond just running 8K loops at a high rocks race, or doing marathons, or doing whatever, fill in the blank, right? So the way that I look at it is, I think this methodology of what we're doing, and we know that CrossFit is delivered in so many different ways, right? But so when I talk about it, it's like the combination of like weight training, gymnastics, and monostructural exercise put together in a way that like supports people in their health, and maybe there's a sporting side to it as well. I think that's sticking around. I don't think that's going to go anywhere. Like, these are just rugged movements that have been a part of strength and conditioning forever, right? So I'm not saying that they're going to be replaced by like, machines and stuff. Like, this will always be a part of fitness. But I do think that the population of people that want this kind of thing, there's not that many of them in the world. And it's true. We can draw parallels in like lots of different, other parts of life. But I think that, I don't know if the name CrossFit will always be attached to it. Maybe like the next fitness, well, we're seeing fitness races now, like, variations of high rocks like Athex, which are asking people to do back squats and shoulder overheads or strict presses and weighted pull-ups. Okay, so then now there's more complexity moving into the functional fitness races. Maybe that might evolve to another level where there's like muscle ups or snatching and clean and jerk. So I think I do think it's going to stick around. I think this huge market, this huge wave right now of people who are moving into functional fitness racing, I think at some point in time, like we experience as athletes playing rugby, they're going to get to a point in time where it's like, what's next? I've done 5 years of functional fitness racing. It was really fun, but it's like kind of looking for that next challenge now. And I think naturally you hit my age and that becomes about longevity and just taking it a bit easier. Yeah, old. And there's the other end, which is like, I'm not ready for that yet.
How long before you reckon we see a High Rocks as event one at a competition? do you think someone's going to do something like that?
Yeah, you
You
know
basically
what?
take
We
it.
basically just had it in Shanghai.
But I mean,
Yeah.
as in like full beans.
Yeah, like an
Like,
actual high
let's
rocks.
do one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Event 1.
Well,
High
listen,
rocks.
like I don't know the intricacies of the relationship, but I had the pleasure of sitting down with Mo First, who's the founder of High Rocks, and he was looking for collaborative opportunities with CrossFit. Wanted to bring them in. It said we're both doing something really similar. Why don't we work together and do something cool? And for in his words, which I don't know the other side of the story, they were like they didn't want anything to do with it. And it was like, maybe a potential massive missed opportunity there to collaborate and do something really cool. Two powerhouses in fitness who have so many similarities. Everyone involved like pushes hard. There's champions. It's a sport. It's a race. Could have come together and done something good. Maybe that will happen. And High Rocks races will become event 1 of the CrossFit Games. I think that would honestly, I just can't see how that wouldn't serve both parties.
Yeah.
Anyhow, chaps, this has been great.
Pleasure.
Obviously we're going to be a part of this season in some way, shape or form, chasing various levels of, wherever this might end. We're all going to be having a heavy part in coaching it and helping, the people that we serve at the process programming to, get the absolute most out of their seasons. And I'm looking forward to sharing, documenting more with you boys. Thank you, chaps.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Before we say goodbye, here's one crazy statistic for you. Did you know that almost 40% of people who listen to the show don't actually subscribe to it? Now, I didn't think that was a big deal until I actually learned about the power of hitting subscribe. For you, the listener, you get to stay up to date when we drop episodes on a weekly basis. But for us as a podcast, it really helps our visibility and helps us attract great brands and great listeners to help grow this podcast. So if you enjoyed this episode or you're a big fan of the show, please do us a massive favor and hit subscribe. Thank you so much.